Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Hey Nurse Angel. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about the information regarding breastfeeding. So, not necessarily the technique of breastfeeding, but more so why breastfeeding is important for you and your baby. When your baby is first born, your hormones kick in and begin to release a substance that's very yellowy that's called colostrum. Colostrum is what you get the first 1 to 3 days of life of your baby, and that is what we call liquid gold. Do not throw your colostrum away. Every little bit counts. The colostrum contains high concentration of protein, vitamins, and minerals, all that are very good and healthy and needed for your baby. It is low in fats, carbs, and lactose. But it is also very good for the baby's immunity. It's called passive immunity. So pretty much when your baby is receiving your breast milk from the first time they breastfeed all the way until you decide to wean them, they are receiving something called passive immunity. And in passive immunity, the immunity that you have built up and the antibodies that you have in your body, they are in your breast milk. So when your child drinks your breast milk, they're able to receive the same antibodies that you have. So they're temporarily, while they're breastfeeding, they're able to have the same type of immunity to things that you have an immunity to. Another very important tip on why we don't want you to throw that colostrum away. It does two things for their gut. Number one, it acts as a laxative, which is very good because in the first 24 hours, we want to see your baby poop. And when they poop, they're going to get something called meconium poop. So when you first open a diaper for the first time, you see it's like black and sticky and just like, oh, what is this? That is your baby passing meconium, which is the first stool. Breast milk, colostrum acts as an laxative, which helps with them passing that first bowel movement, which we call the meconium. And secondly, it also provides normal flora for their intestines. We all have good and bad bacteria in our body, and the good bacteria, which we call normal flora, sits in our gut, and it helps with that. So there's a lot of reasons why we tell you first 1 or 2 days of breastfeeding is gold. If you can just do exclusive breastfeeding, that is great. But even if you decide to pump within the first 2 days, that's great as well, as long as the baby is getting your breast milk. Now, after day 2, we transition into something called transitional milk, and that is between days 2 and 3, transitional milk is produced. This milk, it may not be as golden and yellow as the colostrum is. It may have more of a bluish tinge, which is absolutely normal. Most moms are concerned, like, why does it look like this? It's normal. It's transitional milk, and it's working its way into becoming more mature and having more of the fats in it. You may notice that it's not so as thick as colostrum, and that's okay too. Like I said, it is just doing the transitional phase. You're wondering, how long do you have to deal with this weird transitional phase of breast milk? And normally it takes anywhere from like 7 to 10 full days for your mature milk to come in and no longer be that transitional milk. But it is still very important that you understand in the transitional phase of your milk going from colostrum to mature milk, that you understand it's still very healthy for your baby. They're still getting all the immunity that you have. During that transitional phase, it is imperative that you just have the right support behind you, because it's a new learning process for you and the baby. You guys both are going through it together. It's not easy. Latch hurts. Sometimes they don't latch at all and you're frustrated. It can be a lot of things that come into play. But the biggest thing that I want to just remind you guys is just fight through it. It does get better eventually. I'm not going to say it's the best thing ever, but it does get better. There are times, though, that sometimes doctors may come in and say your baby isn't gaining weight appropriately. Even if you are exclusively breastfeeding, we're going to add in some formula just to help with the calories to make sure that their weight gain is on chart with what they should be gaining weight. If they're losing weight, it's a cause of concern, either from dehydration, not eating enough. It could be a slew of things. Babies' body mass is mostly water. Fluid for them, it's everything. So if they're not getting enough fluid, it can be a cause of concern. And so instead of making them come to the hospital and get fluids and do all these things, the doctor will just prescribe you some formula, and you can just, you do your breastfeeding, and then however long they breastfed for, you guys come up with a formula of, all right, for 30 minutes of breastfeeding, we will supplement and give them 1 ounce of breast milk just to make sure we're good. Now, this doesn't have to be an ongoing thing. It can just be for the transition until they start to get the right weight gain, your milk starts to come in a little bit better, and your production is up. At that point, we can just switch you back to just exclusive breastfeeding. So I don't want mamas to get discouraged when they have to start with formula. I always say if you have to start with formula for whatever reason, their blood sugars are low, there can be a slew of reasons why babies have to do formula. It doesn't just have to be because you don't want to breastfeed. It can be medically placed. And I just want you guys to understand that you can transition to just exclusively breastfeeding, even if they've had formula for just like a few weeks. So now we're getting to the good stuff. With mature breast milk, there's a lot of benefits that come into play. One, of course, is still the immunity, the passive immunity that you're giving your baby through your breast milk. Once your breast milk is mature, per ounce, your breast milk approximates to about 20 calories per ounce. So, in regards to, is my milk sufficient enough for my baby's growing needs? The answer is yes, it is. So a lot of mothers have questions on what is in your breast milk that the baby is needing to grow and to get better, and I'm just going to touch in on that really quick. So lactose is a carbohydrate, and that is needed to help with brain growth. Of course, there's fats within your breast milk, and that comes from triglycerides and cholesterol. Those are very good for helping with growth and gaining weight. There is something called hide milk. So your hide milk, that is produced at the end of your breastfeeding session. So if you aren't pumping, but you're actually doing exclusive breastfeeding, so baby to breast, towards the end of your session is when the hide milk comes in. And that is when that particular part of the milk is high concentrated in fat. That little last few minutes of the breastfeeding session is the milk that the baby needs to continuously grow and sustain weight. When you are breastfeeding, you want to make sure that you are emptying your breast, because that milk is very important. It's high in fats. It's needed for the baby. I know some moms who will breastfeed, and then after breastfeeding, they'll pump. Whatever the case may works for you, you have to do what makes you happy. Not one person's breastfeeding journey is the same as the next. And I just really want to make sure people kind of look to other people like, how did you do it? I want to do how you did it. And just know that not everyone is the same. While yes, it's great to have a community and get advice and see what works for others, just also give yourself grace and know that you have to create a schedule with you and your baby that works for you guys. All right, so let's get into these vitamins that are in breast milk. So the vitamins that are in breast milk are vitamin A, E, and C. It's low in vitamin D, but you can take supplements, and if you're breastfeeding, you should still be continuing with your prenatal pills anyways, so they will get the vitamin D as a supplementation through the prenatal pills that you're taking. When it comes to vitamin B12, if you are a vegan, it is very important because you're not eating any meat. Even vegetarians, if you're not eating any meat, B12 is good for their growth, and need you to take supplements if you're not going to eat the meat, which is fine. But B12 is found in meat, so meat eaters, you should be okay. But if you don't eat meat anymore, just take the supplement and you should be okay. Of course, consult with your doctor. When it comes to minerals, one huge thing that I love about breast milk is that the iron in breast milk is absorbed better by the baby than the actual medication. It's easier on the stomach. It just does better for the baby. So, of course, iron is in your prenatal vitamins, so you're getting enough, but you're also taking enough to make sure when you're giving some to your baby, they're good. You'll notice with formula, they'll say like on the bottle, like iron fortified supplement. And that's because in regular breast milk, the iron levels are high enough to sustain the baby's health. So, very important. Now that you guys know a little bit more about breastfeeding and what's in breast milk, of course, eventually I'm going to have a video that shows you guys the techniques of different ways to hold your baby while breastfeeding, because it's not just one set way of doing it. It's honestly whatever is most comfortable for you. But In the meantime, I am going to give you guys the benefits of breastfeeding for mom and benefits of breastfeeding for baby. So we're first going to go with our babies. So the benefits that you might notice with our babies that we have found in scientific studies is that babies end up with less allergies, a better immunity support, decreased incidences in healthcare problems, so like diabetes, asthma, SIDS, cancer, and infant mortality rates. Their supplemental needs are met, as well as bonding needs are met when you breastfeed your baby. Breast milk is easily digested by the baby's tummy, and it helps with having less constipation. I think that the biggest thing for the baby is bonding experience that it gets with their mom. It is unlike any other to watch a mother and her baby bond through breastfeeding. It's a beautiful moment, and while, like I said, there are times that it hurts, there are times that it's hard, I think that if you can power through and try to get the best that you can out of it, you'll enjoy your journey too. Now we're going to get into the mother side of the benefits. So of course, like I just said, bonding, frequent skin-to-skin contact. So as the baby is sucking on your breast, it releases oxytocin. Oxytocin pretty much is the hormone in your brain that triggers your uterus to start contracting. And as it's contracting, it's going back to its normal size. So in the beginning, early stages of postpartum, we love to recommend going ahead and breastfeeding because it will help with getting your uterus back to a small size, because it just went from you just delivering a baby and it needs to go back to its normal size. So it's very helpful that our bodies are able to do this on its own. It also delays menses, so you won't have a menstrual period while you're breastfeeding, but this does not mean that you cannot get pregnant. Two different things. You're still ovulating, you're just not doing the bleeding process. So the answer, can I still get pregnant while breastfeeding? The answer is yes, and I've seen it happen plenty of times where they're like, we thought we were okay, I haven't had a period. It doesn't really matter if you have a period or not, because you're still going to ovulate. So be very careful and understand that that's what's going on. If you don't want a kid right away after having a baby in a year or two and you're still breastfeeding, just find other alternative routes to not getting pregnant, but you can still get pregnant. Breastfeeding actually does reduce some risk of cancer, and I think that's pretty cool. And the best part, minus the bonding, of course, is the best part. But the next best part that I love is that it's free and it's always available. Your body was meant to not only birth a beautiful baby, but be able to provide for the baby in the sense of their supplemental needs. So it's like, why not take the benefit of having something free? I love free stuff. So I mean, as long as I can possibly do it, I would love to do it. And I encourage my moms, if they can, to do it as well. Now, there is always the aspect of I'm not producing enough milk. Now, I'm not here to tell you guys like, oh, this is what you should do because you're not producing enough milk. Like, I have an answer. I don't have an answer to that. You can go to your mom support. Some women suggest the lactation tea. There's lactation pills. There's all these different products to help you build up your lactation. And I feel like every mom is different. Biggest advice that I can give you is not to give up. Some little tidbit facts that I wasn't able to put in the beginning. A baby's stomach is small, and so they're not coming out, whopping out, drinking 2 ounces of breast milk. The breast milk that your body is supplying, it may be 5 to 6 mLs the very first feed, and it's like this much. Like, is this enough? I promise you it's enough. The size of a baby's stomach, I'm about to put it up here. The size of the baby's stomach is pretty small, and that is enough to fulfill them. Because their stomachs are so small and because they don't need a large amount right away, they do eat more. So you have to create a schedule for you and your baby, especially in the beginning phases, where every 2 to 3 hours they eat, sometimes 3 to 4 hours. It just depends on your baby and how well they eat and the latch and the production of the milk. Like I said, every mom is different. And as they grow older, their time for feeding spreads apart further and further. And then you could go to 6 hours in between and then 8 hours in between. And as they get older, but in the beginning stages, you do want to go ahead and make sure your baby is eating about every 3 to 4 hours. They will have moments when they want to do something called cluster feeding. And cluster feeding pretty much is when their body's going through like a little growth spurt and they just kind of, I don't say they don't know what to do, but they go through these moments of where all they want to do is be on the breast. All they want to do is eat. And they're just every hour on the hour, they're just on your breast. And you're just like, dude, seriously, what is it? It is just a phase. It is temporary. You get through it. You just try to be that support for that baby. Get through it. Your emotionally support partner needs to be there for you because you're going to be ready to cry because it's like, dude, I've been up for 12 hours all night. I don't know what to do. But it's a phase that they go through. It's almost like these growth spurts. It happens first in the first few days of their lives, and it happens again when they're like a month or two, and then it happens again. So you just have to learn to understand your baby's needs, and then at the same time know when to call for help and when to ask for support. Now, I am not a lactation specialist. I am not a lactation consultant. I do want to bring to you guys very soon a lactation consultant to go over all the details of breastfeeding and the actual terms of how to latch the baby correctly. Like, I can tell you how to latch a baby and all that great stuff, but it's not my expertise, and I would rather bring you guys the experts. I'm bringing you guys what I'm an expert in and what I know. I'm going to bring you guys someone who can help you with the whole technique of breastfeeding. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that. Thank y'all for tuning in. Let me know how you guys liked it, if it helped you, if it gave you some information that you guys loved. Is there more that you want to know about? Just hit me up in my DMs, drop a comment below, and I'll be more than happy to help you guys out. Thanks for watching.